sessions we have had on Islam and modernity, and the topic today, therefore, as an outcome, is rescinding colonial laws being ideologically opposed. Now, we have to go and delve into history and see how colonial laws did surface, not only from the perspective of Islamic societies around the world, but specifically focused on the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. As we see from the Pakistan experience, that the criminal codes were devised in 1866 and the civil codes came about in 1906. Now these laws, these colonial laws were engineered predominantly by a man called Macaulay, Lord Macaulay as he was later known as, and they were meant to subjugate all factors of production, because colonialism represents the usurpation of the four factors of production, i.e. land, labor, capital, and enterprise. What the colonists did, that since huge territories, take the case of the British Empire, it was said that the sun never sets on the British Empire, because all the way from Japan down to Canada, it was all territory that belonged to the Britishers. So when management of such large territory and such large populations became difficult, they carved out nation states, and these nation states very simply had a criteria that you need to have population, you need to have territory, you need to have government, and you're a nation state. Pakistan was also an outcome of this siege, but the difference was that Pakistan, by default, became the first ideologically established nation state on the planet, and the founding philosophy of that was Islam. So what the colonists did was provide nationalism as a sense of belonging to the population, domestic populations, local population pockets around the world. These population pockets were meant to lean on nationalism more so than on any other ideology based on religion, based on economic vibrance or the like. What was the hidden agenda in the management of these nation states was the factor of debt or the usage of a medium of exchange which was alien. So, for the sake of an example, if we take Pakistan, we will see that our entire trading, our entire economy is based on an alien medium of exchange, call it euro, call it dollars, call it any other currency, except the Pakistan rupee. And we use the exchange mechanism of these alien currencies with our own domestic rupee to determine the health of our economy. And this is indeed an extension of colonialism in screened off behind a smoke screen where we feel we are independent, but in effect, we are nowhere. So, being ideologically in place, we have to revert to the liberties provided to us by Islam. And we have to revert to the prohibitions provided to us by Islam. And therefore, it becomes incumbent that we rescind all factors of alien laws that inflict us and that are responsible for our decadence and for our ruination progressively. In fact, we are stagnating and regressing on all counts. In my earlier talks, I have already explained that the only way forward is autarky, economic autarky, and social autarky. On the economic plane, we therefore have to understand that under no circumstances can we use an alien medium of exchange to represent the vibrance, value, and standing of our economic footprint comprising of our territory and our people. Now, this is the historical background on the basis of which it is incumbent on us to rescind all colonial laws that inflict us. The next point I would like to make is the effect of the usage of alien medium of exchanges and how they impact nation states. Now, when we talk of a nation state, what we are talking about is a set of people on a defined territory. That territory has natural resources, and that territory inhabits a certain amount of population. If you take the Pakistan example, then we have a very, very rich territory with natural resources. And we have about 221 million people that inhabit the land. By all economic yardsticks, the natural resources we carry are good to feed a population of 1 billion people at the highest standards of subsistence. That is not happening. And that is evidence and reflection of our following colonial laws that we have taken upon ourselves. So governments in succession that have emerged in the last 7 decades, the one thing they could not do, have not done, and are defending as a status quo at the assembly level, at the level of the corridors of power, is rescinding the laws that inflict us. That means our trading is in an alien currency, our reserves are in an alien currency, our development plans are in alien currencies, and therefore the effects of the alien currency on our population, on our territory, on our growth, on our development, and on our aspirations of being or achieving independence have been kicked out of the window, and they are being kept out of the window. We take another issue here. This form of neo-colonialism and how it impacts our social fabric. The consequences of retaining these laws have impacted our social fabric. So the people who are of any discipline, you take the people who are businessmen, who are industrialists, who are entrepreneurs, who are doctors, engineers, researchers, scientists, politicians, poets, artists, the echelon that govern any society, that lead any society, that enable the evolution of civilization in any societies, they get arrested into what is called the slave culture. They know consciously and in their subconscious minds that if there is going to be any progress, if there is going to be any development, if there is going to be any enhancement in my well-being, in my career objectives, in my research, it has to be based on the people from where the economic strength is being derived. So, from a nation of independent thinkers, from a nation of independent entrepreneurs, from a nation of self-respecting humans, and above all, from a nation that is committed for piety to their Creator as a monotheist social order, there is a compromise. They all become a bootlicking society, enslaved with objectives that are anything but independent. So your social fabric is not only fractured, it is devastated. Point 3. These colonial laws, how do they impact production? In an economic scenario, the factors of production are land, labor, capital, and enterprise. Now, land is now subject to factors of feudalistic usurpation. So if you look at the Pakistani map, you will not see any land belonging to the government of Pakistan, but you will see the land belonging to, in different categories, freehold to feudals, belonging to institutions of the state, belonging to individuals, belonging to unknown and nondescript, non-revenue based, non-production based ownership. So it is detrimental to production. Similarly, the people, the population of 221 million that inhabit this territory are also divided on this sort of land and therefore enslaved. That means the compensation for labor is inadequate, does not meet the levels of subsistence that are required to be able to eat good food, wear good clothes, get the right nourishment, and be able to put into gear those mental faculties that are responsible for bringing up a society that can achieve technological development and advancements as we see in what we call the developed world. Then we come to the question of capital. Now capital, as I just said, if you are leaning on alien capital or alien printed paper, the efficacy of your abilities and your objectives for enhancement in any form are therefore restricted, contained, and governed from an external source. There are examples here in this country, for instance, where for engineering a law, you go and borrow money from the Asian Development Bank, you go and borrow money from the World Bank, from the IMF, for engineering laws. It almost speaks volumes of your slave culture, where you feel that the population within the country is incompetent to engineer laws that will govern its own self. While you borrow money, you pay that money again to people who are nominated by the donors, so-called, to engineer the laws for you. So you are in effect not only have you inherited alien laws, you are perpetuating the engineering of laws which are going to continue to remain alien and will only fortify your slavery. Then we come to the last aspect of production, and that is enterprise. Here again, anything that hurts the industrial base of the developed world is not allowed for production in your societies. If you want to make jet engines, you want to go into rocketeering, you want to go into medical sciences and produce pharmaceuticals based on your own technological or historically found recipes, you will be restrained. You can't do it. And because you can't do it, you are therefore sealing your fate for the future by restricting enterprise. Now, while this is the reality on the ground, your constitution, on the other hand, allows you all these liberties. So there is a serious gulf between the reality on the ground and what is the requirement of your constitution, and above your constitution, your ideology. From the requirements of your ideology, and the constitution has a provision for it, that all laws that are present, if they are not in consonance with Islam, must be shelved, must be rescinded. We haven't followed that. So what we see now is a position where all factors of our production, like land, labor, capital, and enterprise, have been contained, restricted, arrested, firmly establishing your place as a nation state to being a client state and in a state of subservience to the original colonists. And if you're reaching out for your independence, or if you're presuming mentally that you are independent, you're either fooling yourself or through your leadership fooling 221 million people, at least in the Pakistan perspective. And this fact is amply replicated in most Muslim societies of the world. Next point. The way forward. The way forward is very, very simple. We have to see the global society as a reservoir of energy, and it is like you see still water spread out in a pond, for instance. When you cast a stone into that reservoir, that placid bed of water, inevitably you will find ripples. Inevitably you will find displacement of water. Now the human society, as it does exist, comprising of about 7.6 billion people on this planet, is just like that body of water. And from time to time in history, stones have been cast at this water, be it in the form of communism, be it in the form of doctrines presented by Karl Marx, be it in the form of the creation of a Zionist state of Israel, which had 5% Jews and 85% Muslims. Their land was usurped, and a foreign ideology, an ideology which was alien to them, was imposed on them. And the world, the rest of the world, started to accept that ripple, hoping the ripples after the stone was cast would again become normal. The Islamic ideology is no different. It is time that when Mao Zedong brought about communism in China, a year after the creation of Pakistan in 1948, it was a big ripple. But the doctrine has lived and has found a place of its individuality in the world order. Similarly, when capitalism was introduced, when socialism was introduced, they found their place. Ironically, what we see today is that the predominant resources of the world, the feedstock as we call it, the natural resources, the commonwealth of nature, is in territories which are predominantly inhabited by a set of people who call themselves Muslims. That means the global production up to 56% is primed by the feedstock and natural resources that come from territories that are within the nation states predominantly belonging to the Muslim populations. And for them to get labeled as the mischief makers of the world is comical, because they are not. They are the victims who are losing these natural resources in exchange of an intangible printed paper to the developed world. They are losing their intellectual property by brain drains, where people who are within them, who excel in various professions, various sciences, are migrating to the developed world. They are losing entrepreneurs who are restricted, and they're going to the developed world. So we are not only being robbed of our natural resources, we are also being robbed by our human resources, and we are also being robbed for our ability to be able to commit ourselves to enterprise. So the way forward, ideally, would mean the firm establishment of the ideology through the identification of an economic destination and through the identification of a social destination or a social order that has to be imposed almost on a sledgehammer mechanism or on a basis which is going to be an ideological writ against any class of people that are governing Muslim societies, who are committing the population to the alien order which inflicts our progress and our existence. So with this as the background and as a case in focus, I would present my writ in being able to achieve a change, in firmly articulating the ideological moorings inflicting all factors of production as the first move. I rest my case. Thank you.
I really appreciate your ideology and whatever your way forwards you have given to take out our society from this slave culture. I want to add on or ask you some more way forward to how to, being a woman, how to come up with this slave society, the phenomena that we always have to listen that no, Islam has forbidden for that. We are forbidden for the same limitations. So what are the more way forward in your ideology, that what are the steps a woman should have to take to come up with this slave society and prove their self on this ground that yes, Islam has given me those rights to come up with this level. So I want to know your ways more about this thing.
Notwithstanding whatever the clergy of any sect may have to say about the emancipation of feminism in Pakistan or in the Muslim societies, we have to go to our benchmark, which is the Quran.
Yes.
And let me quote an ayat from the Quran for you, which clearly says that we have made you with the same constitution and the same substance. Now this is for men and women. So when you look at it from the legal periscope, women have the same rights as do men when it comes to the factors of economic well-being, when it comes to the factors of individual independence. And let me cite another example here. It also provides the law of inheritance in a manner which is very, very equitable. The difference only lies between the roles, the social roles of men and women, where the four aspects in the functioning of a society have been evenly divided between men and women. And I have covered this in my book, A Rendezvous with Destiny. For men, it is planning and labor. And in the case of women, it is motivation and management. So when you find social orders which are oppressive, which the clergy has made the Islamic societies to be, they have to be fought, they have to be resisted, they have to be amended. There is another ayat of the Quran which is very pertinent to what I am saying, that if you want to rule them, you have to first fight them.
Yes.
So any factor which is being thrust down your throat by those segments of society, i.e. the clerics or the usurpers, called the monarchs, dictators or whatever, they thrust down laws on you which defy your ideology. And if they defy your ideology, they have to be fought. Because if you want to rule them, you have to fight them. So discarding any such law, like you have the Family Act in Pakistan, it is not in consonance with Islam. You go to a Shia cleric or you go to a Sunni cleric, you go to another cleric, they will give you their own interpretations. But primarily, your individual self, for each one of us who lives and who's created, has been given by the Creator through the Quran a liberty, that liberty to exercise your free will. You by choice can start a family with another person of the other gender,
Yes.
your spouse, and you can start a family, but has to be by consent. Is it being practiced? The answer is no.
No.
When you are in a home, you've started a family, it has to be by consent. When you divide your labor, is it happening? No. So what are we following? We are following rudimentary cultural norms,
Yes.
probably more applicable in India,
Yeah.
among the Hindu communities where they have a caste system, and they predetermine the future of individuals as a consequence of his birth. That means a Sudra born in a family of a Sudra can never become a Brahmin. So Islam has denounced all that. It has in a very sacred way made a woman and a man totally independent, entirely independent, that you are born alone, you will die alone, you will be answerable alone, and your spouse, your parents, your children will not account for you, and you will not account for them. So wherever you find in society, and this happens in feudalistic societies, and it happens in feudalistic societies because of economic reasons. In an Islamic society like we have in Pakistan, we presume, I have known of women getting married to the Quran.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
It is unacceptable. It is compromising, denouncing your existence as an individual, because it is you and your creator in the end analysis.
Yeah.
All your other relationships are based on a factor which the Quran describes and the Hajj, the ritual of Hajj confirms, is a factor of love. And that love is an extraordinary energy that comes about when you are being just. If I am not transgressing into your rights and I am being just, I will be automatically, or you will be automatically inclined to share your knowledge, your wealth, your time with the other person or with society. That is why the Islamic message is considered to be one of the most charitable messages that ever came to the human race. I hope I've answered you.
Yeah, sure. You answer me, quite, satisfactory. Whatever in my mind, I'm getting one slogan from you right now. It's already in the Quran that if you need to rule, you have to fight first. So this is what I've done with this, and I really appreciate your talk today.
Thank you.
I have also just it's okay. Sir, thank you very much for your a very special discussion about that subject. I have also just one question, and regarding, is this the religion, Islam or any religion, is more important than the culture and than the history of that area, especially when we comes on about the lifestyle, about the freedom, different type of freedom, women freedom, child freedom, human rights issues. So especially in our region, that is South Asia, what do you think that what is more important or more valuable or more enforcement, that is religion, or that is Islam, or the culture or history?
See, let's understand the difference between the two. When we take religion, all religions, whether it is Islam, whether it is Christianity, Judaism, it is Hinduism, Buddhists, they all have one thing in common, and that is social harmony. They all say the same thing: speak the truth, be good to your neighbor, be good to the society, be good to your children, be good to your spouse, etc. Nobody tells you that, all right, go knife your neighbor and rob him. So all religions are a standard operating procedure for being a good human on the planet. So humanitarian values is what all religions are meant to present, and they do. Barring one, which was a recent creation post 1906, and we call it Zionism. That is an economic movement, it's not a religion. But it is being so produced in the garb of Judaism. So, barring that, all religions are good religions. They teach you how to be good, how to be civil, how to share, how to care, etc. Cultures, on the other hand, are traditions that have evolved in societies over years. They tell you how to wear your clothes. They tell you how to interact with others. They tell you how to celebrate certain occasions. Like you have Basant, or you have the culture of flying kites, or you have a culture of khankas, where you sit down and you listen to good poetry, or you have mehfils of mushaira, etc. These are cultural things. They have very little to do with, and it's very pertinent that I quote to you a saying of Imam Ali on this occasion, where he says, try and maintain a balance between your religion and your culture. They're two different issues. But if I'm used to eating nihari, and if I'm pushed into a culture where in the morning they want to eat sour curd or sour yogurt with bread for their morning breakfast, and they enjoy that as much as I enjoy nihari in Pakistan. This is a cultural thing. It has got nothing to do with religion. So culture is something we romantically adopt and associate and own and like to live with. Religion, on the other hand, is a code we need to follow. And therefore, there is a slight difference between the two. The one has got something to do with your head, and the other has got something to do with your heart. I mean, a woman who will dress up in our society here would want to put something on the forehead, and would like to put something in her ears, put something on her neck. And if you go and look at a woman from somewhere like Iceland, or you go to a woman and look her up for dressing up standards in, say, South Sudan, they don't want any of this. They want something totally different. That is all culture. Religion, whether it is from South Sudan or from Iceland or from Pakistan or from America or from anywhere else, will warrant the same thing. Speak the truth, don't rob, be nice, be sharing, be caring, so on and so forth. So, if your question revolves around how and where do we draw the line, we draw the line by using the religion for engineering laws and using culture for being able to live in a state of those factors that please us culturally in any given society that you're living.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Thank you for the time.